This 2024 NASCAR Championship Odds preview edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Bet365. Bet365 is offering new users a $1,000 risk-free bet. Sign up today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bet365. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by Gametime. Gametime has last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Use promo code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. And in honor of Veterans Day, we are bringing you everything in the merch store, 10% off with the promo code VETS. That's VETS. All proceeds of this sale will be donated to Mission 22, a nonprofit serving those who have served.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
We may be 3 months away from an actual race to talk about, but there is no shortage of racing things to discuss here on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, and as we do each and every time we crack this microphone, talk about NASCAR. We talk about racing things. We talk about all the great stuff going on in the sport because, Cody, even though, like we said, it's the off season, the sport never sleeps.
It doesn't. It never sleeps. It has been... We just had a show a couple of days ago, Rod. There was no news to report. A lot of things have changed since then. There has been a lot of news that has broken, a lot of things going on. Silly season continues to churn on. Championship odds are out. We got to talk championship odds. And hey, there is a good opportunity. I should be more prepared for this, but what were Ryan Blaney's odds at this time last season? Now his teammate was coming off winning the championship. They were pretty good, but guys like Kyle Busch, we got a 20-1. Then during the season, obviously, I know Kyle didn't even make the Final Four, win the championship, but during the season, he was down to as low as 6-1 at points because he was having such a good season. It's a good opportunity to get in on some guys early. I'm excited to talk championship odds today, see who our 2024 champion will be.
I obviously cannot wait because, honestly, this is the point of the season where we get everything that we want to talk about. And like we said, championship odds are out. We can speculate now. Go back and listen through our old ones and see exactly what it was we were on last time. So lots and lots of stuff to catch up on. But Cody, you said there was news. Let's start with some of that. What's the news that is making the news today in NASCAR?
Yeah, well, first off, we lost Ken Squire, unfortunately, passed away on Wednesday. I don't know when it was on Wednesday, but great legendary voice of the sport. I think Jordan Bianchi put it, his voice is a fabric of the sport, and couldn't agree more with that. worked for CBS, worked for MRN for a long time. He was 88 years old, but he was one of them that he's the guy who coined the Great American Race when he was commentating the Daytona 500 for that 1979, the first live, flag to flag coverage of a race, and just a longtime broadcaster. Great guy, great voice. So thoughts to his family, as unfortunately he did pass away.
Definitely sad news.
Yes. All right, moving on into the silly season stuff. Zane Smith, did you see his number selection, Rod?
Yeah, it adds up to 8, which is funny. I find that mildly hilarious.
Why is that funny?
I don't know, because Josh Berry, we talked a lot about the whole Zane Smith Josh Berry thing during our Daytona odds, and I just thought
there you go. Yeah. So 71 is the number that they're going with for Zane. Obviously, it's the third Spire car, right? And so they bought the BJ McLeod, the Live Fast charter from the 78 car. Now, BJ announced he's going to still run part-time as an open car. You'll see him in the super speedway races, probably some road courses, maybe some other stuff here and there. Won't be guaranteed a spot, obviously, without the charter, but he'll still run the 78 for that. So it's kind of a question of what number do they go with? A lot of stuff had kind of been bantered about, what number it might be. Obviously, they've got the 7 and the 77 already, so Spire's big on the 7s. Trackhouse, he's a Trackhouse driver on loan to Spire. They've got the 1 and the 99. You put the 7, the 1 together, 71. You got it, I suppose. So yeah, Dave Marcus, he's the guy you think of when you think of the 71. In my opinion, I know Bobby Isaacs won a championship in the number and ran it for a long time as well. But yeah, I love the different. We've got the 24s and the 3s and the 43s, and you got to have those, right? And those are legendary, but they're not these guys' own numbers. And Bobby Isaacs and Dave Marcus drove this car, yes, but still, it's kind of like the Ty Gibbs thing, right? Where 54 is not enough. He's building that to be his own number. That's the Ty Gibbs number, and everything he does, it's going to be his. And for Zane Smith, now there's probably a path for him to get into the 99 car, but maybe the 71 turns into a Spire, a Trackhouse car someday. Who knows how that all works? But yeah, I like having the different numbers you don't see very often, or numbers you haven't seen lately. And I think 2011 or 2012 was the last time the 71 car was entered into a Cup Series race. So been a while since that number's been around. So always fun to see different numbers and things changed up a little bit.
Well, and also different numbers on drivers who we actually recognize, because a lot of times those numbers tend to go to the guys that are like, who's driving this car today? And you always have to sit there and think to yourself, oh yeah, that person. But with Zane Smith, right, we know with Ty Gibbs driving the 54, we knew that right away. So yeah, hopefully he does make a road for himself in that 71 car. But I will say that we'll always know where that car is on the track, just because we've followed him through the trek up,
Yeah, exactly. More news on that whole thing. Crew chief has not been announced, but Spire did announce, of course, they bought KBM, Kyle Busch Motorsports, in the Truck Series. Their lineup is going to be Nick Sanchez, who's going to come over from Rev Racing, but he'll keep the number 2 car. That was a whole partnership deal. I would imagine that partnership continues to go. And Chase Purdy, who was already in the 4 truck, but we don't know the number on that one. And then there'll be a 3rd full-time truck with multiple drivers. Kyle Busch mentioned he was going to run the 5 races for them. Being a Chevy camp, does SVG get some of those rides maybe? Does, Marco Andretti, I would think, is a likely candidate to get some of those. Maybe you get some of the other Chevrolet Cup guys. Spire's worked with they had in the 7 truck this year, like Carson drove a race, and William Byron was in one. So they had some of those guys. Maybe you'll see some of the Hendrick guys or the other Chevrolet Cup Series guys. So some truck news there. And then Colleague announced today that the number 11 car is going to be Josh Williams in the Xfinity Series next season. A little bit of a surprise initially. I mean, this rumor had been going around for a few days here, but no surprise that Colleague has changed. It used to be trophy hunting. Now it's sponsorship hunting, which is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. It's a business. I get it. Just don't lie to us and tell us you're chasing trophy if you're not, because you aren't. But Josh Williams, I think, is a good guy and deserves a chance. obviously really brought himself to the forefront with the parking it at Atlanta last season and, all of that whole thing. And hey, he's parlayed it into a pretty good shot at a nice ride. So I'll be excited to see what he does. I don't really know where the expectations are for that car and for him. I mean, probably, I don't know, because
parked in the infield. That's where it's going to be.
maybe
That's the expectation for that.
Right. But that car had some decent runs last season. We'll see. It'll be interesting to kind of see how Josh does, but excited to see a guy like that that's been hanging around for a long time and really grinding and working at it, kind of get a bigger opportunity with a little bit of a better ride. Still haven't announced their second Cup Series car. Ty Dillon is still all the rumors. Maybe they're waiting on some financial stuff there, some sponsorship to line up. Still haven't announced the other Xfinity full-time car. AJ Allmendinger obviously seems like the obvious choice, but not official yet. So be interesting to kind of see where they go with the rest of that stuff.
I think it'll be good for Williams to learn from a guy like AJ Allmendinger as well. I think that's kind of where they're leaning with that. He does seem like a pretty raw, young driver with a lot of talent. I don't think he's ever really gotten a full opportunity to show that talent. Now, granted, he did put himself on the map, like we said, by parking himself right in the middle of Atlanta's start-finish line. But past that stunt,
and we've seen a few good runs here and there where it's like, wow, look at what Josh Williams is doing today in that GGM equipment, which is just not good equipment at all. And it was a few times where it popped out and you're like, okay, you notice him kind of. And that's what you look for in those guys that are in those lesser equipments is, can they have those days where they, reach above and do more than what the equipment should allow them to do. And so now he gets to step up, and it's not a JGR car or a JRM car, of course, but Colleague has had some good runs. Even Daniel Hemrick had some decent runs in that car. If he could run decent in that car, then probably Josh Williams can too, right?
We shall see. We got more news to get to on the other side of the break, but first let's tell you that in honor of Veterans Day, everything in the merch store is 10% off with the promo code VETS. All proceeds from this sale will be donated to Mission 22, a nonprofit serving those who have served. So support a great cause and score some sweet gear. Store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com, promo code VETS. We're brought to you by Bet365. Bet365 is the world's favorite sportbook, trusted by over 88 million players worldwide. Props, sides, totals, live betting. Bet365 has you covered. And if you like boosts, you're going to love Bet365. Like a 30% profit boost on your same NFL same-game parlay. Plus, they even have an early payout offer if your team goes up 17 points. Sign up today. Choose from two bonus offers, either a $1,000 no-sweat bet or a bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. Just head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bet365. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bet365 or sign up in the link in our show bio. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We love ourselves some Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, and college football. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite player's fantasy stats and cash in. We'll build you some Underdog plays, obviously, all throughout the season. So make sure to get in on Thursday Night Football tonight, too, if you're listening live on this show, or if you're just listening as we upload it. Still got some time to get in some fantasy or some Thursday Night Football picks for your Underdog lineups. So watch along, make picks, maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog's going to double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code SGPN. Well, Cody, where are we going to? What else is making news out there?
Yeah, kind of the one other story, Jake Garcia in the Truck Series. That he had announced before he would leave Bill McAnally Racing, that 35 truck. He's going to join the Thor Sport lineup. Thor Sport, like Bob said, doesn't generally announce all their drivers until later on, December and January, but you would assume Crafton comes back. You would assume Rhodes comes back. And you would assume Majeski will likely be back as well. Haley Deegan obviously departed. Jake Garcia will be replacing her. So it's going to be likely, if you end up with those four drivers, it's a pretty solid lineup to have over there for Thor Sport, which they do most seasons, have a pretty strong lineup of drivers. Garcia really impressed in that 35 truck. That was an addition truck, right? The 19 had always been there for McAnally, but they hadn't always had two trucks. For it to be an expansion team, him to be a rookie, he missed the first 3 races of the season. I think he wasn't old enough to even compete in the series. Had a very strong rookie campaign and looked really good. So I think Thor Sport ride for him will be a good opportunity, and Garcia probably be a guy we're going to be talking about quite a bit on the Truck Series episodes this coming season.
I mean, we already were talking about him toward the end of this season too. We were bringing up in a few matchups, especially some head-to-heads. I don't know that we were talking about him too much inside of the top 5, but definitely can't wait to see what he does with all of that veteran leadership in that garage. You got to think, Majeski, Crafton, all the roads, those guys all have serious pedigree behind them, and they're just going to do nothing but make him better along the way. JDK says, anything on Enfinger?
Yeah, I have not seen anything yet. I was just looking to see if anything had kind of popped up here lately, but yeah, I've not seen anything. Still kind of waiting on his thing. He had been at Thor Sport before, so maybe you thought maybe he'd go back there, but I'd say that's probably not going to be the case unless they add a 5th truck, which they've run a 5th truck part-time, but I don't know. Spire kind of seemed like maybe an option, but now it seems like they've kind of got their lineup finalized as well. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, I mean, he was potentially a late caution flag and a retaliation from Corey Heim away from being this season's Truck Series champion. I mean, he was that close to it. So he's been in the Truck Series a long time. He's had a lot of success. So you have to expect that you'll see him at some point. But where he's going, still don't know. There's still some open, like we said, Xfinity rides, still some open Truck Series rides. So be interesting to kind of see where Enfinger lands, because he's kind of one of the bigger fish as far as the silly season for the Truck Series goes.
You have to think that at this point the music is continuing to go, and he's wondering when it's going to stop and which chair he's going to land in when it's done. Because honestly, that's how it's got to feel at this point. You're like, okay, well, I saw this guy jump in a chair, this guy jump. What chair's left when the music finally stops? Speaking of which, old-fashioned fantasy football jumping in. Justin telling us to save our voices, guys. Yeah, if you don't know,
worry, I've got my bag of cough drops here, trying to keep it going. Hopefully, my voice isn't too rough today.
We're going to jump in on Justin's old-fashioned football podcast here in a second after we're done here. JDK says, odd, no one jumped on him yet, considering he would have. Yeah, I'm telling you, he would have won the championship.
Yeah, the Truck Series, though, the Truck Series operates much different from the Cup, and even sometimes the Xfinity Series. Like, a lot of times guys don't announce their plans until later in November or December, just because a lot more moving parts there. It relies a lot more on money and sponsorship, and I think Grant's got a pretty good following with Champion and some of the other stuff he's got, but it doesn't shock me too much. I mean, I don't know. I guess some of the bigger rides have been announced now this week, and so it's kind of like, where's he going? But I think he'll still end up with a pretty good ride, and but not super crazy that he doesn't have a ride yet. I'd imagine there's plenty of irons in the fire, and something's gonna be happening for him soon.
Well, I mean, he's earned it for sure. So definitely just interested to see where he goes. I mean, that's going to be weird to not see him in the 23 truck, but of course we know that's how the sport goes. Don't get too married to one, because you're probably going to see him in a different number. By the
unless you're Matt Crafton,
or unless you're Matt Crafton, or unless you're Denny Hamlin, or anybody
been racing the 88 since 1982, before the Truck Series existed.
I was gonna say that dude's been racing the 88 since birth. So
he was born in an 88 fire suit.
Born in an
Menard's already on it.
That onesie already popped out, and he was like, all right, I'm ready. Let's go.
That might be the more crazy thing. It's been the same sponsor almost the whole time, and the same number, which is just doubly insane.
Speaking of that, I saw the other day where Kevin Harvick bought Ricky Bobby's house in North Carolina. That, my friends, should have been the lead story. Right?
That is pretty cool. You've got to imagine there's going to be some, photo shoots and stuff coming from their family. Their family's pretty funny and entertaining, and that'd be. I mean, hey, if you got the money to buy Ricky Bobby's house, why not, right?
I want them to reenact the dinner scene. That's what I want them to reenact. I want oh my God, why am I blanking on his wife's name?
Oh, Delana.
Delana.
Yes.
I knew it was Delana. I doubted myself. I want to see Delana telling Ricky Bobby to rein in his prayer. If you pray to the baby Jesus whenever you start making the money. All right. So
Love
listen,
it.
there's championship odds to talk about. So I feel like we should start talking about some championship odds. Should we do that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do that. But before we do, I tell you that I hate buying tickets each and every week, each and every day. I tell you, I hate buying tickets because the rest of the ticket apps out there make it so frustrating to do. Sometimes I don't know if I'm going to make it to the event until maybe the day of, sometimes at least the day before, because our schedules are always so crazy. And so when I go to pick up and buy a ticket, I get gouged or it's sold out and I don't know what to do. Well, now I know what to do because that problem is gone. Gametime has taken that problem away from me. Now I can buy tickets even probably minutes before. I haven't tried this before. Maybe I should. Minutes before the event starts so I can see whether or not I get the best deals on them. With Gametime, it's probably going to happen that way because they have done everything to make the ticket buying process that much less stressful and do it in the least amount of time possible. Not only that, they're going to guarantee you that you're going to get the best prices and that your tickets are going to be on time and authentic. They've got lower fees, better prices. Plus, they were made for mobile. Those tickets that you're going to buy sent straight to your phone. No spam mailboxes, no waiting for them by the mail, no drone trying to deliver you tickets. I don't know what the kids do nowadays. I don't know, zap you. I don't know what happens, but it doesn't matter because Gametime gives them to you right on the phone. You don't have to worry about it at all. Plus, they're going to send me a picture of me enjoying the concert before I even get there. All right, at least the seat that I'm going to sit in while I enjoy it. All that great stuff is happening over there on Gametime right now. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create your account, use code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as the expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. So stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. So we talked about it just before we started to get into the rest of the news. You wanted to know what the odds were for Ryan Blaney at the start of last season. Ryan Blaney, believe it or not, fourth on the board at 10-1 as far as his championship odds as of January of 2023. So definitely a little bit shorter than I thought they'd be, but
yeah, but I guess looking back, I mean, Logano obviously wins the championship, and Blaney was the fastest car at Phoenix, so something to be taken from that, right? And maybe, yeah, who knows? I guess where's Ross Chastain on this list? 20-1. We might have to end up talking about him. So he was the fastest car at Phoenix this season.
Which, by the way, Ross Chastain 10-1 last season. Joey Logano, who actually won the season before, was 12-1 coming in, so he wasn't even one of the favorites. The favorite last year, Chase Elliott at 5.5-1, followed by Kyle Larson at 6.5-1, and then Hamlin at 9-1. Board looks slightly the same, maybe just a little bit different on this 2024 offering of the championship odds, but a name sits atop and kind of a clear leader. Whereas I just laid out to you that Elliott was 550, Larson was 650. Well, here we've got Ryan Blaney, the defending champion, as the favorite this year, plus 433 on Bet 365, with Kyle Larson sitting at 6-1 behind him. Crazy. Is that just a lot of respect for what happened last year or what?
Whew, that is a lot of respect. I mean, again, he won the championship at Phoenix, and he was the fastest car at Phoenix in the last fall. So you got to give him that, right? And so I think one of the main things to take away from this as we look at the championship odds, and as we kind of went through this season and we watched them move and shake and stuff throughout the season, and there was points where William Byron is the favorite and Kyle Busch is the favorite and Martin Truex Jr. was the favorite. And I think the biggest lesson is it doesn't really matter how hot you are at any point during the season, whether it's early in the season like a Kyle Busch, whether it's, a little bit in the middle of the season like a William Byron, whether it's the end of the regular season like a Martin Truex. It only matters what you can do in the playoffs, near the end of the playoffs, and getting in to the final four, and then you throw in the 2024 playoff schedule, and you look at it, and there's multiple. You've got, trying to pull it up here. We got multiple super speedways. That's the word I was looking for. Multiple super speedways in the in the playoffs. Here we go. If I can find my words again.
We're
multiple super speedways in the playoffs. Yeah, we are. Jeez. Multiple super speedways in the playoffs, which throws another wild card in there, right? And makes it harder for a guy like Kyle Larson that's just not as good at super speedways to, we talked about that. Like he had to make it through the Talladega round, and then he's got the chance to get it, right? So I think that the way you have to attack this is you just kind of bet long shots early, or longer shots earlier in the season, and maybe longer shots throughout the season, right? Because if a guy like Ryan Blaney's struggling early in the season, again, if you go through the documented, what his odds were throughout the season, sure, he was 10-1 to open. I'd imagine there was a point in time where he was a lot farther. Obviously, you get the penalty late in the season, and that really shifted his odds, and it was rescinded and all that. But I mean, he was not having the best season, and got the Casey Kane comparison from Kyle Petty and all of that stuff. He ends up being the champion. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway. So Blaney's here at plus 433. I definitely wouldn't bet that. I love Ryan Blaney, and I think he could definitely repeat as the champion, although that's very tough to do. And there is that curse of the champions. We haven't had a repeat champion since the last time Jimmy Johnson did it, which was his 5th in a row at that point. And in this format, it's even harder to do it just because you've got to be almost perfect in that one last race. But then you got a guy like Kyle Larson at 6-1. He's always a good bet because sure, he's likely going to be there, and he's going to be probably the best driver all season. But do you bet him now and you hold that 6-1 ticket all year? He's probably not going to drop much shorter, which is the unfortunate part. I just don't see him going through like such a dry spell that, because even when he's not winning a bunch of races, he only won 3 races this past season. Still pretty much was the favorite all season because everybody knows who Kyle Larson is and what Kyle Larson can do. And the books aren't stupid. They don't want to lose a ton of money, right? So you could probably get him at that later on in the season anyways. So, but yeah, that's just kind of what I've taken from how this season went, and from all of the ebbs and flows of, wow, it's this guy's season, and then it's this guy's season, and then you get all the way to the end, and it's really the guy who got hot at the end. That same thing last season, or the 2 seasons ago at this point now, right? With Joey Logano. He got hot at the right time at the end of the season. They put it together. I guess it's Austin Cindric's turn this year. I don't know. Okay, maybe not. I won't go that far.
Ooh, I was going to say Austin Cindric. We're looking
going through that Penske camp.
Way the hell
Harrison Burton.
150-1 for Cindric. We'll get there. What amazes me the most is when I look at these. I know, right? When I look at the odds at this point right now, back in January of this year, when you're looking ahead to the 2023, there was only 3 drivers that were underneath 10-1. There are 5 drivers now that are underneath 10-1, all in that blanket. And we talked about Blaney at 433, Larson at 600, Byron's at 600, Denny Hamlin's at 7-1, Elliott's at 8-1, Bell's at 9-1, Truex is at 9-1. The only guy in there that I question whether or not should be there is Martin Truex Jr. And I say that because, and maybe he is probably thinking the same thing, I know how good he was as the regular season champion. I get that. And maybe it's a Joe Gibbs thing where you can get all the way to the end, but you can't win the championship over the last few. Denny Hamlin, obviously, notorious for that. Maybe he's gotten a few tips from his buddy, Denny, on how not to win championships. And maybe that carries through. You have to think at this point, and this is what Martin Truex Jr. puts on his corkboard every day. It's statements from guys like me who have zero business telling anybody when they're done. But you have to wonder if the question is whether or not it's done. This is whether or not this will be the last time he tries, because this, especially the last few months, took such an emotional toll on him that, I mean, maybe getting back in for the 2024 season is going to be therapeutic, kind of like this beginning of 2023 was. right? He was driving out of his mind. He was winning races. He was finishing well. He was finishing better and winning the regular season. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe he gets back in this car this year to try to go one more time at it and comes up empty like he did a couple of seasons ago, right? I just, to me, I wonder, because again, as an old guy myself, sometimes you need a little more motivation to get out of bed. And when that motivation isn't there, you start to go, oh, well, maybe I'll just ride around this time. And that leads to another and to another and to another. So 9-1, I don't think
he's such the type that would just like walk it off though, too, isn't he? Like,
yeah.
And then you'd never like 10 years from now, he's on the Dale Jr. download and he's talking about how he's just been like on a boat and living in the woods, never talking to anyone again after he like walked away as the champion. But yeah, at 9-1, I think it'd be tough to bet on it. I will say, so Chase Elliott is 8-1. If you shop around a little bit, he's still 14-1 on another place that starts with an M and ends in an M and maybe has a G in the middle. I would go smash that right now because you're getting just an elite talent, a guy who's won the championship at this track and everything at 14-1. I know he didn't win any races last season. I know he had the accident, but that is absolutely ridiculous. And I think that's probably how I'm going to attack betting on the championship odds in most this season is just watch the ebbs and flows of guys that can win the championship as they go through parts of the season. So Martin Truex Jr. at 9-1, probably not. If he has a couple of off weeks throughout the season and things are kind of slow, he slips down to a 15-1 or an 18-1, then that's probably when you pounce because you know what he's capable of when you saw how hot they could get, right? He wins at Sonoma. They go on a tear. They win the regular season championship. He's won the championship before. He can get it done. Maybe Cole Pern gets back on the box this year. Oh, I don't think that's going to happen, but maybe it's some besides James Small and he can actually win. But yeah, I would agree with you there. As far as Byron goes, again, can win it. It's short odds. It's so tough to bet these guys at short odds when you're going to likely get these odds kind of throughout the season. I mean, unless William Byron, he won 6 races this season. He was really around this kind of number all season, right? It wasn't like he ever was a plus 300 or something like that. You missed your chance to get in on it. So in Hamlin, 7-1. I tried last year, Denny. After years of fading you let me down. Ugh, damn it. I would go get that Elliott at 14-1 for sure now. Bell, 9-1 again. He's made the championship 4 a couple seasons in a row. So you can't ever count him out, but at only 9-1. And then I agree with you on Truex. Same thing as, again, these are guys you want to, so again, to make this mental note, write it down, whatever you want to do now, this group that we just talked about from Blaney all the way to Truex, if at any point during next season they're struggling and their odds have dropped, you're getting them worse than 15, that's when you need to jump on them because we saw it with Ryan Blaney, we saw it with Joey Logano. They will go through these spells and, even we've seen it in the past with guys like Jimmy Johnson where they would take, once they kind of knew they were going to be in the playoffs, depending on whichever format he was facing that particular year, it would take a couple of months where they were just trying things and working on different things and getting ahead of the game and looked off. And that's when the numbers slip a little. I think that's when it's going to be the best to capitalize on these guys. So kind of watch that dip, buy that dip. You're getting that chance on Elliott in certain places right now, 14-1. Go get that now, I would say. And then just keep an eye on these guys as we get into next season. And that's a nice thing now too, is I want to say prior to last season, I don't remember them having championship odds up every weekend. Like it seemed like every once, maybe in the off week they pop up and then they just kind of go away or whatever. But we had them on multiple books every single week. We had them updated. So you're going to keep getting opportunities throughout the season to jump on these. So in my opinion, I think from a betting standpoint, obviously any of these guys can win the title and we know that. And they're at the top of this list for a good reason. But I think that's the way to attack betting on the championship odds this season.
Yeah, and again, when we talk about who can win from outside, it's a matter of, I don't know, I find it very difficult sometimes to make a case for some of these other guys because obviously the books agree with the concentration at the top of this. These are the guys that'll most likely be fighting. These are the guys that'll most likely be in the championship 4 when it's all said and done. And you take a look at the next tier, right? We'll take a look at the 10-1s to 20-1, and that's Logano at 12-1. Reddick at 14-1, Busch at 16-1, Keselowski at 16-1, Chastain at 20-1, and Buescher at 20-1. All these periphery guys, are guys that will probably make it into the playoffs, right? I mean, I can make a case for every single one of these guys to make the playoffs. But as we've seen, guys like Kyle Busch can fall off the face of the earth over the last few races. Keselowski can have a rough patch and take himself straight out of it. Chastain, he's probably the one out of this group that I would raise an eyebrow. I mean, he proved obviously last season, and recency bias is a thing. And when you see what you see out of a guy, especially late in the season, right? Turn it on. Now, can he keep that momentum through the season? That's the only question. But for Chastain, we know he can finish well. So is this worth 20-1 now versus maybe he shortens up if he actually starts off pretty good to the season? Or maybe you wait for him to have that lull in the middle of the season and then try to snatch him up somewhere maybe around 20. But I think this may be the best number you get for Ross Chastain. And again, to close it out, Chris Buescher at 20-1. Same with Keselowski, right? I mean, these guys, we know how much they dominated this season. We know how much they ran in the top 10. We know how good they are. We know how good their team is. This is probably going to be another great season for RFK Racing. But is it good enough? And is 16-1 and 20-1 the best price you're going to get for them? Or can you wait for them to get longer? That's a question I have with them as well.
Write this down right now, Rod. It is November 16th, 2023. Tyler Reddick is my guy for 2024. Give me Tyler Reddick to win the championship. Give me his over on the win totals. We are going to see a Tyler Reddick season. He is going to have 5 to 7 wins in 2024. Rod is actually writing it down. This is why you watch on YouTube. He is currently writing it down, which is a good thing. But no, I'm very, very bullish on Tyler Reddick this season. 14-1 for the championship. I think you get in on this one number now because I think it's a good number. He's so freaking talented, and so many times we've compared him to Larson, and in my opinion, just raw racing driver talent, probably only behind Larson at this point in his career where he's at. And I think this was his first season with 2311, and they had their ups and downs, right? He had an opportunity to win a lot more races and perform better, and you get the pit mistakes, and you get this problem and that problem. And as they continue to iron those things out, he's going to be in his second season with the team now. Seen what Bubba Wallace has done. Toyota continues to seem to get stronger. They're adding legacy, so they're going to have more cars in their camp, all of that stuff. I'm really, really bullish on Tyler Reddick this season. So I'm going to have a lot of him, including the 14-1 championship ticket. Kyle Busch, 16-1. We made the argument last summer or last fall at this point, 20-1. I think you make the same argument. It's still Kyle Busch. He's still good. If Kyle Busch can get hot at the right time and you're holding a 16-1 ticket, I like it. Keselowski, it's hard to bet on him at 16-1. I don't think the number's big enough, but the argument can be made, right? And he's kind of a streaky guy, and they've shown they can close out the season strong. They've had, strong playoff runs the last 2 seasons. So there's that, and you kind of just lump Buescher in there, same thing. Is Buescher a champion yet? I don't know, but I wouldn't have thought he would have won 3 races this season either, and that was a big step for him. So I do think that program continues to step forward. If you want to get in on them, these are probably good prices. I'm just probably not going to get in on it. Chastain at 20-1. Like, you got to get something on that just because we've seen what he can be, right? And you saw him get into the Final Four, 2022 season, and he wins at Phoenix in the fall here in 2023. So that's, I mean, again, the fastest car last season won the championship this season. If that repeats itself, you're holding a 20-1 ticket on that. And Trackhouse, they went through their spurts this season, and Chastain looked good through portions of the season. He had that lull, so that recency bias of, yeah, sure, they won the last race, but they weren't that good down the stretch. No, but if that's the part where he is good, which he was this previous season, I think that you have to consider that at that number at 20-1.
So for context, let's just go back to 2022 and talk about some of where these guys I talked about. Ross Chastain, he was 10-1 last season. Kyle Busch, 12-1 last season to start the season. You have to go all the way down to 60-1 for Brad Keselowski in that range. Chris Buescher, 95-1 back in January of this year for the championship.
That that goes to show you, because how close did these guys get to? Yes, they didn't make the Final Four, but Buescher was down in the Final 8. He wasn't that far from. Go show you that it's not a bad idea to grab some longer shots. Call your shot on a guy. If you want to say, hey, it's gonna be,
You can't do it.
As I look in this area, like I said, but hey, you would have said the same thing about Chris Buescher last year. And look at, after 3 wins and he's, into the round of 8, if you got a 95-1 ticket, or is that what you said, 95-1? Like,
yeah, 95-1.
Then okay, that's not a bad place to be. So
hey,
it
if
feels
you think
gross
Eric
because
Jones
it is
Toyota, if you think Eric Jones and Toyota can get it done this year at 125-1, let's go.
Eric Jones is a very, very talented driver. Hey, can't count him out, right?
Look, I'm writing down that time code because I want that if something accidentally happens and I said Eric Jones is 125-1, I want that. All right, so listen, let's kind of lump together some of these other guys. Wallace at 33-1, Gibbs at 33-1, Bowman at 40-1, which, I mean, I know it's Bowman, but it's a little surprising to see a Hendrick car that far down in the mix. Barry at 66-1, Suarez at 80-1. Those are the ones that get you just before the 100-1 thing. So surprise number 1, we already talked about it in the Daytona 500 odds. Josh Berry at 66-1. No, he's in the 4 car, just like you said earlier, but does he really belong underneath some of these other guys that still, I mean, does he belong under a John Hutch Nemechek, who we'll get to in a second? But yeah, so 66-1 for Josh Berry. Huge surprise here. Daniel Suarez, I'm not surprised that he's 80-1. Obviously, we know the talent. Obviously, we know he can win races, but as far as championships are concerned, I think he's still got a little way to go. Ty Gibbs, 33-1. Bubba Wallace at 33-1. Both of those guys seem a little bit longer odds than I would expect, especially when you're given Chris Buescher 20-1 odds. But I guess we'll see if those ones shorten up at all. But again, those are kind of my initial takes. Bowman, crazy to see a Hendrick car that far out. Barry, don't know if he needs to be 66-1. Could probably wait on that to get a little bit longer as the season progresses. And then just Wallace and Gibbs, I think they could be shorter. So I think they will be shorter. So I think if you really believe that it's going to be one of these guys this season, this is the time to grab them.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested. So there's a category on another book, drivers to make the championship 4, and they've only got 2 drivers listed right now, which is strange. But it's Alex Bowman at 8-1 and Zane Smith at 200-1. But I'm going to be interested to see as that market kind of fills out what some of those numbers are, because this is kind of that group of maybe guys that could make that, but do you really see him winning the championship? Probably not. Like a Bubba Wallace, I think he's, he might be like a round of 8 guy. You're putting 2 super speedways in there, which can be wild cards and not go against him, but could go for him as well. You saw the great run he made this season. If I'm expecting his teammate to do a lot better, I think he's also going to do better. I think they push each other. Ty Gibbs, 33-1. I'm going to have some of this. Look, rookies don't win championships, and we said that last year, and we said there's no chance that Ty Gibbs wins it, even though he's Ty Gibbs. But you're telling me that he can't come out in a second year with as improved as we continue to see him be, light the world on fire in a Gibbs car, make it to the championship at Homestead or at Phoenix, and win like he did in the Xfinity Series and his first full-time season there. I'm not putting it past the guy that's as talented as Gibbs is. I think 33-1, it's worth it. 40-1 for Bowman. It's a Hendrick car. You've got to weigh that in there. And look, Bowman, he's the least sexy of the Hendrick guys, right? And you get that. But before he broke his back in that sprint car accident, he was leading the points. If he can just, lead the points and kind of, win a race here or there like he kind of does, he's never really but again, with William Byron, you didn't get 6 wins before this season, and then he goes in and does it. And I know that Bowman's the older guy and he's been around longer, but who's to say he can't do that too in that car? And at 40-1, again, it's another one that's worth taking a look at for sure. Barry at 66-1. Rod, rookies don't win championships. Josh Berry is not an exception to that. It will not happen. Again, maybe he has an okay season. He should not be a higher or a lower. He shouldn't be half the price of Chase Briscoe. And this might sound funny to say because I faded Chase Briscoe a lot last year. 125-1. Yes, please give me some Chase Briscoe, because Rod, 2 seasons ago, he made the final 8 and he won at Phoenix in 2022 in the spring race there. And where is he good at? Short, flat tracks. And again, he ran well there this fall and he was 5th there in the spring last season or whatever. Chase Briscoe at 125 to 1 is one of the longer shots I definitely want to get in on, because again, like you just talked about with Chris Buescher, 95 to 1 last season. What a surprise that is. Like, yes, Stewart-Haas was down this season, and I get it, but guess what? A Ford who was down all season still won the championship this past season. They won the championship 2 seasons in a row. Stewart-Haas is still a strong enough organization. They've got resources. Gene Haas has got plenty of money. See his cars at the F1 race in Vegas this weekend, right? And so Chase Briscoe, and he's really fucking good at that kind of track. And again, if you can get to the Final Four, any of those guys can win. How many times do they have to prove it to us across all 3 series, right? That's what happened. So I think at 125 to 1, you've got to get in on a guy like Briscoe. Jones, I don't hate that price. Suarez, absolutely not interested at all. Dillon, probably not really either. Cindric at 150 to 1. You can make that Penske argument. He's going into his 3rd season. This is kind of, time to start showing up. He's an Xfinity champion. If you want to call your shot there for the number that's again, I think it's good. Past that, I'm not interested in anyone else.
Nope, just Corey LaJoie at 1,000 to 1. That is
at 1,000 to 1. Hey, maybe he wins Atlanta. Maybe he wins. What's the other one? Is Daytona in the playoffs this year? I think so. Maybe he wins those 2. Finds his way into the Final Four. Corey LaJoie, your champ. No, I probably wouldn't even bet that.
Strap rocket ship to his car and completely,
Hey, you throw $5 on it. That pay out decent, right?
Yeah,
$5.
That's it. So
Nemechek,
just to round it out, yeah.
To round it out, Nemechek 150 to 1. I think he'll have an okay season. I think we're going to see some struggles there, but championship, no. Stenhouse, so he's what, 250 to 1?
250 to 1.
I just don't see it. It was great. He made the playoffs this season. He's probably going to be one of those guys that doesn't make it next season. Priest, no. McDowell, no.
Not even Hemrick at 500 to 1?
He who shall not be named, no. He lucked into one Xfinity championship. There ain't no way he's going to cup championship. By the way, not a rookie. He sucked when he was in the 8 car before. And then Justin Haley's in a Rick Ware car. LaJoie, no. Harrison Burton, no. Carson Oswald, no. Zane Smith, rookies don't win championships. And Todd Gilliland doesn't have a chance either. So there you go.
That's the rundown. I mean, again, we can make, you can really make solid cases for everybody up to, I would say Bowman at 40 to 1. And then you're just starting to get kind of shaky on the rest of them. Obviously you made a case for Briscoe.
I think the Briscoes, the Joneses, those guys are worth at 125 to 1. Like, if you want to throw a couple of bucks on it, because there is a path to be made. And if Chase Briscoe comes out and wins 3 races next season and he's kind of a front runner all season, would it be a little surprising? Yes, but would it be like, whoa, this came out of nowhere? What? Really, right? Everybody kind of expected that from him this past season. And I'll add to that point. As in, you look at what he was last season, Chase Briscoe, 40 to 1 coming into it. Now we're talking 125. And now he's, and again, it was a rough season, but towards the end of the season, they started to figure things out even on the bigger tracks, right? I mean, early in the season, I was at that Spring Kansas race. I would have gone faster in an actual Mahindra tractor than Chase Briscoe was like, his car was just, it reminded me of that 00 Starcom car. Like, they would always throw the green flag and like the field rushes by and then like, there goes the 00 car. He runs like 5 laps and pulls in. And it's like, but that was Chase Briscoe last season. And they started to figure things out towards the end. Ford seemed to get better. Ford's got a new body coming this next season, right? We've seen it. That Mustang looks nice. It's a beautiful car, all that stuff. And Stewart-Haas, he's the elder statesman at Stewart-Haas now, I guess. So there's that. But he's the guy they were most invested in, right? Barry's, he's coming in and he's going to be their rookie driver. Priest is on a year-to-year deal. Will he be back? Will he not be back? Who knows? No, they haven't even announced the 10 car yet. We know it's going to be Noah Gragson, but he's going to be a basically rookie. I guess he won't technically be a rookie, but didn't get to finish his rookie season. Like, Briscoe's going to be that lead guy. I do think that Childers and Barry is a really good pairing, so I think you got to keep them together, but I'm kind of sad that Childers isn't going with Briscoe because I think there could be something there. But again, I'm not calling for a breakout season from Chase Briscoe, but I'm just saying that it wouldn't be shocking and it could be there. And at this number, it's definitely a guy you've got to take some Chase Briscoe to 125 to 1 to win the championship now, just because it's such a big number and there's such a path for it to happen for him to get there. And if he gets there, he's a guy we love betting on a track like that. He won there in the next car the first time they were there. All these things kind of line up for it. So yeah, I think that of the long shots, and then that's kind of where it ends. Like looking past that, I don't think you really touch any of these other guys. Maybe an Austin Cindric if you want to talk yourself into the Penske narrative. I think you could build a case there too, but past that, no thank you.
All I'm saying is if you want to go ahead and place a wager on any one of those guys, DM me for my Venmo. Just send it straight to me because I guarantee you it's going to be the exact same thing. You're just not going to ever see it again.
Rod's all of a sudden on a hook for Michael McDowell championship, but going into Phoenix, he's like,
I'm saying you just send me the money. I'm not putting in the bet. You just send me.
Well, I know. Yeah, you're guaranteeing the numbers. All of a sudden, Michael McDowell finds his way into the final four, and Rod's like trying to find a way to hedge off all this money he owes people.
Oh, I don't owe you anything. No, you're going to give me the money, and I'm just going to sit on it.
I got you. You're not booking it. You're just taking the donation.
For hell yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, if you want to give the book, don't give the books the money. Give me the money. I'll take it.
You can Venmo Rod at.
And then there we go. You won't ever see that money again, much like if you put a Michael McDowell bet on the championship. So, all right. I feel like we have thoroughly covered this market for the time being. I think Ford has a big year. JDK says they can't.
Yeah,
they can't not have a big year, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, can't be much worse than it was. It's funny because they've won the 2 championships on this car, right? But it can't be much worse than it was this year. Like, they really didn't have a great season. And they're losing a big guy in Kevin Harvick, but you've got Logano, you've got Blaney, and you've got guys like Briscoe. There's definitely some guys there that can do it. So yeah, I think Ford, it really, other than the championship, because that's the obvious part, it's kind of nowhere but up for them anyways. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all.
Indeed. All right. Let's put this show to bed. Obviously, Cody and I got to scoot because we've got to go to old-fashioned football.
Yeah, as soon as you leave this, slide over into the fashion football. You'll see our beautiful faces over there in 5 minutes here.
Yeah, can't wait for that one as well. So, all right, Cody. Well, we've got plenty else to talk about too. We've still got another show this week that we're going to talk about other stuff as well. We'll bring it to you. Yeah, we'll be back this week, so you won't miss us too much. So, in the meantime, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. Again, F1's in Vegas this weekend.
Tonight, kids.
Tonight, yes, practices tonight. It's the track. It's so beautiful on the strip there. Everything looks so great. They're racing around the sphere, all that fun stuff.
Although the locals hate it, though. I'm telling you right now, I have friends there. They hate it, but
yeah, but you live in the tourist destination of the world, like, so you just get used to it. All right, come on. But anyways, check out the F1 Gambling Podcast. Rod and I host that as well. Of course, if you don't know, we have a lot of fun there. We're riding the Checo ladder all the way to the top this weekend. Go over there for all the bets. I got an article out, sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Commanders, Rod, there is a name change odds out. It's mostly an article of me making fun of half the names, like Magician and Magic, because that's absolutely stupid. But go check it out because it's a fun article. I had a lot of fun writing it, and you can see all the odds for all the fun names. So check that out. And yeah, follow me on Twitter / the artist formerly known as Twitter, I suppose. X now it's called. At Husk_Zeeb. You can find all my work over there. And check out the Old Fashioned Football Podcast because we're on our way over there right now.
We certainly are. I'm on X. And you can also find me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, in between media still, when the season gets kicked off again officially, all that other good stuff going. Find some props over on Sportsbook Review for tonight's game and the weekend. So, all right, guys, we'll see everybody probably tomorrow with more of the show, and we'll talk to you then. Until next time, let's go racing and let it ride.